The Martinez family had dreamed of this vacation for months. Sarah and Daniel, high school sweethearts now in their 30s, had been buried under the weight of work deadlines and the chaos of raising two energetic kids. Their son Ethan was 10, curious and adventurous, while little Lily, only 6, still clung to her mother's side. When Daniel stumbled upon a rustic cabin listing online, secluded, nestled in the woods near a quiet Michigan lake, it seemed like the perfect escape. No city noise, no traffic, no stress. Just nature, family, and peace. The first 2 days were exactly what they had hoped for. Ethan caught his first fish on the lake, beaming with pride as his father helped him reel it in. Lily spent her afternoons picking wildflowers and chasing butterflies around the cabin. At night, the family sat by the fire pit roasting marshmallows, the children's laughter echoing under a blanket of stars. For once, Sarah felt the tightness in her chest, the endless to-do lists, the bills, the constant ringing of her phone, melt away. But on the third night, that peace was shattered. It started small. Sarah woke in the middle of the night, unsure what stirred her. The cabin was quiet, the faint crackle of the dying fire in the fireplace the only sound. She was about to roll over when she heard it, soft crunching, the distinct sound of footsteps moving across the gravel outside. Her heart quickened. Daniel was beside her, asleep, breathing heavily. She told herself it was probably a deer, maybe even a raccoon. Still, the sound didn't stop. The steps circled the cabin, slow, deliberate, as if whoever, or whatever, it was didn't care about being heard. She nudged Daniel awake. Dan, listen. He rubbed his eyes and sat up, straining to hear. The steps were faint now but unmistakable. His brows furrowed. Stay here, he whispered, climbing out of bed. He grabbed the flashlight from the dresser, his body tense with protective instinct. Sarah followed him to the living room window. Daniel clicked the light on and swept it across the clearing outside. The beam cut through the darkness, but the woods stood still, silent trees, swaying leaves, nothing more. The footsteps stopped. After a few tense minutes of silence, Daniel sighed and shook his head. Probably an animal. Go back to sleep. Sarah wanted to believe him, but unease gnawed at her. Morning came, and the kids' excitement drowned out the memories of the night. Sarah tried to brush it off, busying herself with making breakfast, but when she stepped outside to toss scraps to the birds, her stomach dropped. There, in the soft dirt near the back steps, were footprints. Human footprints. Large, heavy, pressed deep into the ground. They led from the woods directly to the back door, then circled the cabin, stopping just below their bedroom window. She called Daniel over. His face darkened as he crouched, examining the tracks. Could be hikers, he muttered, though the nearest trail was miles away. Still, he forced a smile for the kid's sake. Don't worry, honey. Probably just someone passing through. That night, the noises returned, louder this time. Sarah lay awake, clutching the sheets as scraping sounds raked against the wooden siding. A knock, slow and steady, rattled the back door. Then a voice, so faint she thought she imagined it, whispered her name. Sarah. Her blood ran cold. She shook Daniel awake. He leapt out of bed, rage boiling beneath his fear. That's it, he growled, storming toward the door. He yanked it open, flashlight blazing into the dark. Silence. The forest stood still, like it was holding its breath. No footsteps, no whispers, no one. Then Daniel noticed something carved into the wooden doorframe. The letters were jagged, uneven, as if etched hastily with a knife. Sarah stepped closer, her stomach turning as she read the words aloud. I've been waiting for you. Her hands trembled. Daniel's jaw tightened. Whoever had been outside wasn't passing through. They were watching. They were planning. And now, Sarah knew, they weren't alone in these woods. Maya and her two best friends, Chloe and Ryan, had been planning their summer road trip for nearly a year. It was supposed to be carefree, the kind of trip they would remember for the rest of their lives. Beaches, music festivals, cheap motels, and sunsets on the road. They packed their little hatchback to the brim with snacks, bags, and an endless playlist, their laughter filling the car as they headed south toward Florida. By the third night, exhaustion had set in. They'd been driving for hours through long stretches of highway that seemed to go on forever. When they finally spotted a faded neon sign blinking, "Vacancy," on the side of a two-lane road, it felt like salvation. The sign belonged to a rundown roadside motel with peeling paint, crooked shutters, and a parking lot that looked abandoned. "Are we sure about this?" Chloe asked, wrinkling her nose as they pulled in. Ryan shrugged. "It's just for the night. Cheap and close enough to the beach. We'll survive." Inside, the clerk sat behind a dusty counter, his demeanor unsettling. He barely looked at them as he slid a tarnished brass key across the counter. "Room 6, he muttered. No paperwork, no ID check, just that. Their room was small, musty, with faded floral curtains and a lingering smell of mildew. The wallpaper peeled at the corners, and the carpet was stained with marks they didn't want to think about. But they were too tired to care. They dropped their bags, ordered greasy takeout, and collapsed into bed. Around 2 a.m., Maya stirred. A faint sound drifted from the bathroom, a low humming. At first, she thought Chloe had gotten up for a shower, but when she glanced at the other bed, both Chloe and Ryan were still there, fast asleep. Her pulse quickened. She sat up, straining to hear. The humming grew louder, deliberate, like a lullaby sung off-key. Slowly, the bathroom door creaked open. Maya's eyes locked on the darkness inside. For a moment, she swore she saw someone standing there, tall, shadowy, motionless. Her breath caught in her throat. She screamed. The lights in the room flickered violently, buzzing as though the electricity itself had gone haywire. The humming stopped. The bathroom was empty. Chloe bolted upright. "Maya, what the hell?" "There, someone was in there." Maya's voice shook. "I swear I heard humming." Ryan checked the bathroom, flashlight from his phone cutting through the shadows. Nothing. The cracked mirror reflected his pale face, and the only sound was the drip of a leaky faucet. They didn't sleep again that night. At dawn, they shoved their things into their bags and bolted for the car. None of them wanted to admit how badly shaken they were, but the silence in the car spoke volumes. That afternoon, still disturbed by what she saw, Maya pulled out her phone and began searching the motel online. At first, nothing came up. It was like the place didn't exist. Finally, she stumbled across an old article buried in a local archive. Her hands trembled as she read aloud. In the late 1970s, the motel had been the site of a string of gruesome murders. A man known only as the Humming Killer had lured travelers inside, attacking them in their rooms. Survivors who escaped described one chilling detail. Before striking, he would hum an eerie tune, soft and deliberate, just outside the doors. Chloe's face went pale. "That's what you heard." Ryan tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his voice low. "Then maybe he's still there." For the rest of the trip, Maya couldn't shake the memory of that figure in the bathroom doorway. The way it had stood there, silent except for the haunting hum. She knew what she saw, even if no one else had. And as the miles rolled on, she couldn't stop replaying the moment in her head, because deep down, she was certain of one thing. That motel hadn't just been haunted by its past. Someone, or something, was still waiting inside. Kevin and Josh had always been thrill seekers. Every summer, the brothers chose an adventure, rafting, climbing, or hiking trails most people avoided. That year, the destination was Colorado, where vast mountains and sprawling forests promised the kind of rugged beauty they lived for. The first few days were filled with breathtaking views, laughter, and the kind of brotherly banter only years of shared experiences could build. On their fourth day, they heard about a hidden shortcut trail that would cut hours off their hike to the next campsite. A few locals at the general store had warned them against it, their tone serious. "That path's been closed for years," one old man said, shaking his head. "Hikers go missing out there." Josh had laughed it off. Every town has its ghost stories. Kevin hesitated but gave in, swayed by the excitement of discovering something forbidden. They found the unmarked trail just as the sun began its slow descent behind the mountains. The path was narrow, choked with roots and weeds, but the thrill of the unknown pushed them forward. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The cheerful sounds of birds and rustling leaves faded until the forest felt unnaturally still. Even the air seemed heavier, damp and suffocating. Josh cracked a joke about horror movies, but his voice sounded too loud in the silence, as though it disturbed something ancient that lived there. After nearly an hour, they stumbled into a clearing, and froze. Before them lay the remnants of an old campsite. Tents were shredded as if by claws, sleeping bags slashed open, their stuffing spilling like entrails. A rusted lantern lay on its side, and a cooler was overturned, its contents long rotted away. But what struck them most was the smell, a sour, metallic stench that turned their stomachs. This looks fresh," Kevin whispered, his throat dry. Josh crouched, touching a torn piece of fabric. "No way, it's probably been here for years." But his voice lacked conviction. Then it came, the sound of movement. A low, guttural growl, so unnatural it raised the hairs on their arms. They spun around, expecting a bear. But what emerged from the tree line wasn't an animal. A man stepped into view, if he could still be called that. He was impossibly tall and gaunt, his skin caked with dirt, his clothes little more than rags. His eyes, hollow and sunken, glistened with something feral. In his hand, he clutched a jagged hunting knife, rusted but sharp at the edges. Kevin's chest tightened. We should go," he stammered, slowly backing away. The man tilted his head, lips twitching. Then he whispered, voice raspy, broken. The words were unintelligible, but the tone carried hunger. Josh grabbed Kevin's arm. "Run." They bolted, crashing through the brush, branches tearing at their clothes. Behind them, heavy footsteps pounded the earth, keeping pace. The man didn't run like a normal person. His strides were jerky, unnatural, but impossibly fast. His whispers grew louder, tumbling into chilling laughter that echoed through the trees. Kevin's lungs burned as they pushed themselves harder. The forest blurred, the world reduced to pounding heartbeats and the relentless sound of pursuit. At last, a faint light flickered in the distance, the ranger station. They burst inside, slamming the door shut, gasping for breath. The ranger, a grizzled man in his 50s, leapt from his chair, startled. "What in God's name? There's someone out there," Josh cried. He chased us, he had a knife." The ranger's face drained of color. He stared at them for a long moment before speaking, his voice low and grave. "That trail's been closed for years. Too many people vanished there." Kevin's hands shook. "We didn't vanish." The ranger's eyes darkened. "No, but you saw him, didn't you? The one who never left." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Kevin and Josh exchanged a glance, realizing the truth. Whatever haunted that trail wasn't a legend. It wasn't just a story locals told to scare outsiders. It was real, and it was still out there, waiting for the next hikers foolish enough to take the shortcut.